Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're with us. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to use the telephone listen line, 605-562-6564. Telephone listen line, 605-562-6564. And, of course, you can always listen to us on GCNlive.com, GCNlive.com. Republic Broadcasting Network. We are one day delayed on RBN. And, of course, there's YouTube, the Ron Gibson channel. And you can just look up Ron Gibson, Gibson, and comma, USA Prepares. And you'll see the channel with all of the broadcasts that we've done for years. All right there. Thank you, Ron Gibson. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm moving slow today.
Are you really?
Yeah. And
anything to do
with... It was very weird. There was no traffic on the road. It was like not a weekend, but I don't know. It was really creepy.
I was going to ask you if it has anything to do with rust. That you're moving slowly. And rust. And I'll tell you why I mentioned that.
What? Spell that. Your volume's low and phone quality.
R-U-S-T. Rust.
R-U-S-T. Like,
no.
Like an animal that's sexy?
No.
Sorry.
R-U-S-T. Rust. Anyway, here's I got a pet peeve. Let me tell you what it is. This is really making me angry. So, Rick, we have a 2004 Chevrolet pickup truck, and it's mostly rust colored. It used to be white, and now it's rust colored, and it's a farm truck. And we have neighbors who have the same exact model, and all of them that I've seen, there's 3 of them so far that I've been under, 3 of them. They all have brake lines that are rusting, literally rusting. And what happens when a brake,
from salt on the road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you probably don't have this problem out your neck of the woods
on
the West Coast. But
remember, I lived up in Washington, 6 to 8 feet of snow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, here's what happens. They're using salt with beet juice, the B-E-E-T, beet juice, and it makes it way more corrosive. And what's happening is the infrastructure is coming apart here. The beet juice mixed with salt allows the salt to stay longer on the road and lower the freezing temperature for longer periods of time. It's more expensive, but it lasts longer, but it's way more corrosive. And I thought that General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, and the other automobile manufacturers would have a fit and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Our cars are being torn up. Customers are going to be unhappy. But I've changed my thinking. I think that the automobiles manufacturers are delighted with the rusting out of these cars. So in our neck of the woods in Missouri, you will see trucks with chrome bumpers that are rusted through. The thickest part of steel other than the engine block or the differential housing or the the thickest part is the bumper, if it's steel. And they are rusting through where the salt kicks up from the tires. Well, so we've been underneath this vehicle. It's still in our garage. We're helping this woman, and we're replacing the brake lines for her. She's about 80 years old. And we were exasperated with how long this takes. And there's some physics and chemistry in this discussion. And that's why I'm bringing this up. So these brake lines they're just thin pieces of steel tubing, and they should last the life of a car. But they don't. They wear out from rust very, very quickly. General Motors says it's a normal replacement item. To replace the brake lines on four corners of a standard 2004 model pickup truck from a Chevy dealer is $1,900. Now, Rick, you remember brake lines, they're like $2 a piece, right?
Well,
isn't that what they
used to be made with real materials. Now they're not even made with real Girl Scouts. It's crazy, but it's business as usual.
Well,
everything is designed to wear out. You can time your watch to a battery. It's it's right dead on right there. 3
years.
Yeah.
3 years. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
one day over, and I'll tell you, that guy has engineered that really good. Mopar, that's what we'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what happened. So our son decided that he was going to help this lady out because it was pretty expensive repair. Someone who's on Social Security, she just lost her husband, she's in her 80s. Not a good situation for her. So we're under the truck, and our other neighbor has one, and we have one. And I thought, wow, how is it possible that this guy's rocker panels haven't rusted out? Well, they had, and they were already replaced. Okay, and the truck was painted. So yeah, he had his rocker panels replaced. Our other neighbor had his rocker panels replaced, and they're rusting again. The truck that has the brake problem, they're rusting again. Mine are almost completely gone because I haven't replaced them. So this is all the same year Chevrolet, 2004 pickup truck. The bottom line is, if you want to replace the rear brake lines, all you have to do is take the truck bed off. I'm talking about that 8-foot box or that 6.5-foot box, the pickup bed. You lift it up, and then you can get to the brake lines. If you want to replace the fuel pump on this truck, all you have to do is take down the gas tank or take off the pickup truck bed. Some guys have said, you know what, I'm not going to let General Motors do this to me. So they take a Sawzall. They literally cut like an 18-inch hole in the pickup truck bed so they don't have to take the bed off or the gas tank out. So they can access the fuel pump that's in the gas tank that's sandwiched between the top of the gas tank and the truck bed. Now, when you get to the front brake lines of this pickup truck, they recommend that you lift the front cab off the frame. That's why this is a $1,900 job. It's $100 worth of parts today. It used to be $2 per brake line, so it'd be $8 total. And you could easily replace brake lines, back in the 60s, 70s. Not anymore. Now it's a real big job. Now it is almost as expensive to replace 4 brake lines as it is to buy a used truck. That's crazy. I'm serious. I paid $3,000 for my Chevy pickup truck. Okay, it goes uphill, it goes downhill. The engine's fine, the transmission's fine, but it's a rust bucket. So people look at it and say, "Wow, what a piece of junk." Well, okay, but it's a farm truck. So it was $3,000 for this thing, but it would cost almost that much to have a brake line job done. Now the dealer said, "Now it's $1,900 if everything goes right." Now, if we have any rusted bleeder valves on the calipers, that will cost more. So now we're really looking at about $3,000. What a great job of planned obsolescence. And it's an outrage. It's an absolute outrage. And I just wanted to share that with our class, that when you look in front of you, and you look behind you, and you look to the left, and you look to the right, and you see a Chevy pickup truck, you can be, in this vintage, around 2000 vintage, you can be darn sure if that truck has been through salt, the brake lines are corroded and rusted. And then you can think about them pulling that boat behind their truck, and they're behind you, and you think if the guy in front of you slams on his brakes, and you have to slam on your brakes, and you're on the highway, that you're going to be able to stop, and the guy behind you with the boat, he's going to be able to stop, and his brake lines are going to hold up. That's what I'm talking about. I think they're trying to kill us. I think that the federal government should be all over this, and they're not. And they're not.
Well, there's a lot of things going on right now that irritate me, but really, I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm going to get even. It's crazy. I started to vet on Amazon. Do you know how many fulfillment center ads I get each day from Amazon? It's like 20, $50, $100. What they did to me is I once accepted that, got a really nice pair of earrings and a necklace for Julie, and then they continued taking it out of my credit card, and I didn't notice it for 6 months. $99, $89, and Amazon. Oh, well, we can't really police. Why they don't police it is because they take a cut on that. That means they get their pound of flesh. And that's why they're allowing people to sell my book new for $600. Now, what's that about? Money laundering, probably. I have no idea. I don't see it anywhere else except my books. Who's doing that? And it gets better. Well, the Molly bookstore is got a single book for sale, Power Tools. And but if I wanted to get 3 of them, how come she has 3 of them? Wow. Amazon is too big for its britches, and if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to take that concept of ag businesses. I'm going to try to take it down. It's wrong. And it's wrong with plausible deniability. A lightning source and create space. Well, we're just printers. We don't check people. This is BS. And you want to see you being irritated about brake lines. My livelihood has been so totally...
Yeah, hold that thought, Rick.
Yeah,
hold that
well,
thought.
Okay. I was going to go into a rant, but I don't want to do that.
Well, we don't have time. We'll be right back. Then you can go into your... Doc Graham's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Website, richardallenmiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Rick, you were on a rant. Did you want to continue that rant? Hey, Rick, you there? Hey, Rick. Did we lose Rick? Hey, Rick.
Yes. I can't hear you.
We're back on the...
hardly hear you at all. And I went over to the kitchen, and of course I couldn't see it. I just noticed, guess what? It snowed here last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often does it snow there?
More. It's valley floor. We rarely get snow. Sometimes, maybe just before Christmas. Not late like this. The earth.
I'm glad you brought this up. I'm glad you brought this up. We've seen extreme weather changes recently. I'm talking about 50 degrees Fahrenheit in 2 days. 50-degree change in 2 days. And what it's done is bison have frozen to death in Alaska. And also, farmers are having trouble with their cows dying because they're freezing to death, literally. And during the break, I ran down to the garage, and we made a pen inside our garage for a week-and-a-half-old calf that we rescued because the calf would have died. It was just born in the freezing cold weather, and the temperature shift was so great that the calves can't live through it. So we had one in our garage, and then another one was born. So we had 2 in the garage, and one of them didn't make it. So we were left with one of these calves in the garage. We're bottle feeding it, and what I'm trying to do is bring attention to, our food supply is in jeopardy with these violent temperature changes and weather extremes. And what am I talking about? Plants, trees, they can't get up and move if they don't like the weather. They're stuck where they are. right? And trees are having a tough time. Trees are falling down all over our farm. And it's not just our farm. And we've talked about this before. Are you seeing increased evidence of these violent climate changes?
Yeah. The Earth has literally slowed down. The pole has shifted. That means we're no longer we're at latitudes that now will have a different kind of weather pattern than they used to. And the currents on Earth, like Japanese current and the Gulf Stream, those kinds of things, they're all gone. And now we're having 7.8 earthquakes. That's enough. That was one up in Alaska. If it had been down here, it would have dropped out in the ocean. It would have dropped the entire shelf. And that's the big one they call out here, 7.8. Actually, it's an 8.4. And the difference between those two is just probably, half again. And I'm telling you, it's everywhere. And the weather is changing, yes, because the Earth is changing, yes. And so you wanted to know, are we going to die? Yes.
Well, yeah. My question was kind of simple, but at the same time complex. What do you see as the end of life on Earth? Disease, an asteroid, nuclear war, some accident, somebody hits the wrong button, and it either launches a missile and is retaliated.
Dr. Strangelove. I mean, that's a movie,
EMP.
man.
A massive chemical spill, a biological escape, for something that we made.
Or someone's killing the bees. You watch what happens when the bees die, and they're doing it deliberately. Why? I can tell you that terraforming has all kinds of clever cliches like black goo and green goo and premortal things. Did you know that they now have a synthetic enzyme? They just discovered it and made it, and it allows you to change your DNA. Did you know that? It's called 3ZB. And let me tell you, it's kind of like the third ring in Jacob's ladder, which was BZ gas, which is different. BZ, and this is 3ZB. And I think it's related.
Rick, are you talking about if we don't like who we are, we'll just change it with 3ZB?
Oh, yeah. Supposing you want to look like a monkey and act like a dog.
Okay, hold on.
Here, we'll just change
We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, I was reading an article about this fisherman who caught a dolphin fish. And he didn't think that the fish was well. I thought it was sick. And what he did was he cut open the fish's gut, and he found things in there like bits of plastic, bits of plastic. He found bottle caps, jar caps. And when you think about this, it's criminal. Absolutely criminal that we're doing this. We're just using the ocean as a dump. And the animals think it's food. They don't know that we're so stupid to do this. And we're killing animals that...
No, not you and me. That's not true. What's true is that
you're right.
It's being done by very wealthy people. I don't even have enough money to do anything with the ocean, literally. But it's about money and like radioactive waste. They take the money and run and let another generation. Who cares? I'm gone. I got mine. That's what's happening. And that's why I think we need another hangthebankers.com, where there is a vigilante group that goes out and lets the 1%ers know they're on notice and we're watching them now. I'm fed up with it. It's crazy. I don't have any money to poison the ocean. It's not me or you doing it. It's corporate, corporation. as an individual. And that's crazy. And these guys that have that kind of money, like Amazon, just do whatever they want. And then they throw a million lawyers on it so that you wear out. And it's unbelievably hurt me. Now, I'm betting other things with royalties and other things like that. And I am now got physical evidence. And I'm going to cause trouble if it's the last thing I do. I could use, never mind. It's just not me doing it, not you. It's corporate. They got too big because the whole thing is about money. I just can't wait for that to hit the brick wall.
Yeah, and that's probably why there's so much interest in the alternative currencies, because people have had it with being fleeced by big corporations. The government,
we'll just print some more. You know, it doesn't matter whether we've got it or not. We'll just print some more.
You know, I ran out of wire here at the farm. I needed some wire, Romex wire, to wire some receptacles. And I couldn't just print that wire. I had to go out and buy it. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just snap my fingers and have that wire be
have
there?
a replicator.
Heck, couldn't it be?
Yeah, somebody sent me a link on, look, they're printing organs now. And I saw one, so I wrote back to this kind of little sarcasm, and I said, yeah, they're even printing, 3D printing brain cells. Too bad they don't work yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's with this 3ZB, you can have Tinkerbell, you can have orgs and goblins, you can have anything that you want, just like Cyber City. And the way I see it, the 3ZB is the third ring in Jacob's Ladder. That whole craziness is changing reality into crazy.
Rick, are we advancing in technology faster than we can understand what we're doing?
Yeah, that's why it's going to become magic, because it'll have a mystery school. You don't need to know how it works. You can put that nose on there anyway. You know, like the gods in the Upanishads, the elephant god and the monkey god, and that's nuts. And I'm seeing it now. It's alive, you know, Frankenstein. And I can't understand why they're doing it. It's like a dog that licks its balls. Why does it do that? Well, because it can. It's like, I don't know why they're doing it, like killing the bees right now. I've got this article I'm reading, but it's done with intent. And the 5G towers, that's what's causing the trouble, is that the bees use those bandwidths for navigation, and it's confusing them. And there's actual studies showing that the bees will not go near a smart box because it radiates wrongly. And what do you think that's going to do to your brain? What do you think cell phones are going to do to your brain? What do you think texting is going to do to your social life?
I think texting has destroyed the social lives of young people. You know,
well, and it's so vague. You don't even pass information, and you sit there waiting for the next ambiguous response. You know, the 3 dots, I'm typing. Don't bother.
Rick, when we were growing up, if we wanted to meet someone of the opposite sex and we wanted to date, we used the traditional means.
Yeah.
You know? Now, young people don't know how to find a mate. But if they've got to go to an in the cloud application, right? They've got to go to some dating
pornography.
service.
That's why, you know, I am receiving such weirdness now in email. I can't imagine anyone having a business doing that. Why? Oh, well, you know, like singles.com. I remember the sock hops and the hopefulness of going to a county fair because you might meet somebody.
Yeah.
It's different now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing's different. And Facebook, I have friends that are posting things, but the thing is, it's only a single sentence or two sentences. It's not 3 paragraphs. Why? Because it's texting. And they're staring down and they're typing with their thumbs. And what do you think that's going to do to your brain?
Well, that was one of my questions. That was one of my questions for you, because I've been thinking about the gadgetry that we've had, and I remember back in the 1970s, calculators, handheld calculators. Wow, that was something that was just
the
unbelievable.
We had slide rules,
yeah. So we migrated from slide rules to calculators, and it was the neatest thing: add, subtract, multiply, and divide with this little thing you could hold in your hand. And an inexpensive one was about $100. For an inexpensive,
write a 0 and carry the 1. I'll tell you the base 10 concept of logarithms. And the problem is that mathematics, as it is a type of language that everything is based on. I mean, nature, the way we do physics, the way your brain works. It doesn't mean it's fact. It's just a convenience. Did you know that base 3 is the only base that does not have primes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most people don't even understand what a prime is in terms of how that works. And, I have to tell you that the concepts of what's happening in our language and our educational systems, I think that an argument could be made that we've been invaded. And by Black Goo, and they're trying to set us up for being like a galactic center with the gamma rays and creepy,
I thought you were going to say they're trying to set us up to be food.
They are. That's what it is. It's all about food chain. Everybody's got to serve somebody. What was that, Jupiter Rising, that sci-fi movie? At the end of the movie, the aliens saying, it's about food chain. I've watched Orca chase dolphin, and they're both more intelligent than us, and I'll tell you, the dolphin are moving right along. Feed me, mama. It's a Little House of Horrors.
For the most part.
Yeah, there's terrible things going on, and we're not focusing on the correct issues. And we tangent. And look, children, ISIS is beheading. Oh, no, we disbanded ISIS because we don't need it anymore. I get it, Grip. Everything is done for a reason. Nothing is free. And I got to tell you, I think there's some very bad people out there managing us.
So, Rick, as I look at humanity, we are pretty much the only ones who are not food, except for cannibalism.
I had a grizzly bear come at me. That's creepy. I mean, really, man. That bear is smarter than man without maneuvering me. That's creepy. And my rifle, I had a 30-06 with a toy. I shot him in the head and I heard the bullet ricochet. It's crazy. And we are food chain. A grizzly bear doesn't care. It looks at you as food. Yes. So does a Bengal tiger.
But for the most part, we are not food for the planet. However, I'm wondering if what's happening with these electronic gadgets, like starting with the calculator, that was a consumer type device where lots of people began to have them, and then we had other devices like personal computers with word processing. And when that first came out, wow, you could make a mistake and hit the backup key, and then you could retype it. Heck, then you got spell check. So after the calculator came out, and after word processing with spell check came out, we didn't need to know how to do simple arithmetic, and because it did it, the machine did it, and we didn't need to know how to spell. Now, with these shortcuts on smartphones and typing with our thumbs, we don't even have to use words now. We can use a couple characters that replace real words.
Yeah, or you abbreviate something like call you like a C2 or something. Initial. Yeah, that slang, the idiomatic expressions. If you catch my drift.
My question, when we come back from this next break, can you tell us where you think this is going to go and what's going to happen to our brains? Are we going to turn into mush And you mentioned you don't have to know how it works anymore. Is that what's going to happen? We're going to turn into a bunch of...
Drives, and I don't mean Sandy, but that's the way people drive a car. They don't think about internal combustion engine. They think about ritual and the way they turn the key.
Rick Miller's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, docram.com, docram, D-O-C-R-A-M.com. Also, richardallenmiller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Rick, so getting back to this, calculators, word processing, spreadsheets, databases, the computers are manipulated.
Cars.
Yeah, and even fuel deliveries. Let's say you have a heating system that runs on fuel oil. They have the system based on degree days. The computer applications can get the degrees from the weather service, and they can figure out when you should have fuel. So even the guy at the company that sells fuel oil doesn't have to do much thinking. The cashiers, when you use credit cards, they don't have to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, or make change because that's all done electronically. So my question is, are we going to have lower IQs based on more gadgets doing things for us?
We already have lower IQ. And the thing that's interesting is that the millenniums are actually really smart. They're just not practical. And guess what? That's all a direct result of the technology changing so quickly that a parent can't show a child how to do it. And the schools aren't going to do it. Who's going to do it? Good luck with that.
I was going to try to talk a young man, a millennial, about 30 years old, how to change out a dimmer switch in the wall and replace it with a standard flip-on, flip-off type switch. And I don't know if I can do it on the phone. I don't know if I could do it. Not because of my inability to explain it. It's just that I don't think he's ever done it before. I don't think he's ever tightened the screws to the appropriate torque so that you have a good electrical connection and not have a fire. It involves things like wrapping the bare wire around the screw in the clockwise direction so that you don't loosen the wires by having the wire wrapped the wrong way around the screw. It involves things like looking at the wire for nicks, because you don't want nicks because it reduces the ability for current flow in the wire. And you don't want wire that's been bent many, many times on the previous connection, because that's a weak point where you might have a restriction and heat buildup inside the electrical box. So I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can explain this to him. So I've been thinking about this for about a month, and I don't know what the answer is other than say, watch it on YouTube.
That's the bottom line now. I went to Weimar last night trying to find some single-load shotgun shells, black powder, smokeless black powder. And the person said, well, we have some slugs and fillers, but we don't have the press, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, it'd be really nice if I find someone local to show me how to load my own. And she said, why don't you go to YouTube? There's probably somebody that made a movie on how to do it.
Sure.
There's probably a movie for every single thing in the world.
Yeah. Including how to lift the truck bed off your pickup truck so you can replace the brake lines.
Or to remove the rust off your brake line. Or to, listen, man, the whole thing's crazy. And how did they put it in network? I'm mad as heck, and I'm not taking it anymore.
Yeah, well, we've been there for a while, Rick.
Well, there it is, just a reminder. Yeah, exactly. Have you seen the new comedy with, what's her name, Jane Fonda, and Your Number, Please? What's her name? It's unbelievable. Lily Tomlin.
Rick, when we come back, can you tell us about C60, carbon 60?
Sure.
Okay, I'm thinking about taking that internally.
You want to take it with olive oil, and you'll probably live a couple years longer.
Okay. I'd like to know
Why
about...
do you want to live longer?
I want to pay more... Rick, I want to pay more taxes. I can't believe you asked that.
There you go. You want to be married longer. Very good.
Yeah. Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Is real interesting.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. DocRam.com. Rick, we were going to talk about C60, carbon 60. What can you tell us about carbon 60? Hey, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, carbon 60. What can you tell us about carbon 60?
Well, it's 60 carbon atoms. What carbon is one of the very few elements that bonds to itself continuously. That's why we have nanosheets of it that are single, atom wide, and forever. And they just bond in sheets. But if you have 60 or 120, those two magic numbers will allow you to form what we call a buckyball. It's a little ball, a geometric ball. The bonding level is 1.4 nanometers, and around you go. And when it forms a ball, it can only take water inside it. Different forms of water. Deuterium comes to mind, for neutron fluorine fusion bomb. But if you put structured water inside it, well, now that ball is antioxidant that is in all surfaces. It will grab anything and wrap itself around it with a bunch of balls and form these nanotubes of buckyballs that will bioremediate crap out of your body. And that's incredible. That's like having, they gave radiation. They radiated lethal doses of radiation to rats. And before the damage could start, they fed them fullerene water and went in and isolated the radiation and washed it out of the body so that 95% of the rats that had been exposed to lethal doses survived. Now, that's because it's like billiard balls, the nuclear radiation. If it's bad molecule, it's all charged up and it hits this cell and causes it to mutate and hits that cell. And by the time it ricochets around with the buckies, these pinballs, what happens next is you die because your body is always making mistakes. But C60 will stop that nonsense immediately. It'll go in and isolate it and wrap it out, and off it goes. And the thing that's interesting is that you can make it just by thinking about it. The structure to water is by thought alone. And that's now the second part of the equation where we talked about your belief systems and placebo effect. And they always is a 20% placebo. Yeah, more likely healing, any form of healing, is about 95% of what you think is happening is what makes you live or die, not the medicine. It's the thought in your process, in your mind's eye, I've got cancer. That takes care of it, you make it so. Self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. And so you have to be very careful about your thoughts and the kinds of foods you eat, because they all go hand in hand, and the next thing you know, we're going to, how did they put it on the late night what is it, Friday night? Dorito corn chips. Oh, well, don't worry, we'll make more. Yeah, there's lots of more to go with that, and our diets are, you think our education's bad? Yeah, well, they're trying to kill us this way and that way. That's why I think there's something else going on here, because it gets worse. It doesn't get better. We don't smarten up. We seem to get more stupid. And, if we didn't learn something about radiation in Fukushima, why what do we want to do? You know, the chemtrails, everybody here is sick with this influenza. And 50% of the people think that it came from chemtrails. What do you think?
Sure. I think it did. I think that's what happened to me.
I have a friend down in California that did some filming on that burn that they had in San Bernardino with a new laser particle beam weapon. It nuke off certain parts of the district down there because they're going to give it to China. And that's crazy. That's what they're doing. California's gone. Moonbeam outside. Yeah, it's all messed up.
I was reading an article last night about China is developing a laser device that will send out a short burst of laser that is so powerful it would equal the consumption of all of the grid power for the entire world when this thing fires off. And it is allegedly going to be so powerful it can cut through space.
So that's part of the chemtrail thing, is the particles that are in there will help that beam hit its target more accurately because it acts like a lens, and that means incoming, and then outgoing, I can send a beam out through that thing, and it will amplify it because of the lithium or whatever things that are in the atmosphere. And it's a weapon. It's not about geoengineering to save the Earth from global warming or whatever. That's a bunch of hooey. What they're doing, oh yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, good luck. It's, it's never what you think. It's much worse. And with chemtrails, and what's in it, I don't know if it's Fukushima or the chemtrails, but all the Ponderosa in Oregon's dying. All of it.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about during hour number one. The trees here in Missouri are dying. The animals are having a tough time. You don't see any bees, squirrels, rabbits, rats. I mean, you see a few. We have a few mice and that want to come into our barn. But heck, you don't see anywhere near the field mice that you used to see. You don't see anywhere near.
Well, the weather's changing. I mean, we've had a pole shift. We've had slowing down of the Earth. That's happening. Oh, yeah, and there's new planets coming into our solar system affecting our sun. And I do remember when the sun was yellow. So how does that work?
Yeah, right.
Well, there's something else going on, and nobody imagines sitting Bill Nye out there with a little comedian talking, oh, yeah, we're in the end of days. It's crazy. And I don't want to think about it. So what I do is I try to stay focused and just do work and all of that. But I can tell you, I don't believe in war. And I'm not a Quaker, but I like their motto, that kind of orientation. And all of it's about money and business as usual. And I've had enough. I remember the way it was in Vietnam, and when I watched the movie The Post, it all brought it back into focus, exactly how Lyndon Baines Johnson and the rest of them orchestrated it for oil and money. Ladybird. There you go. Just like in the movies.
Lady Bird Johnson, First Lady, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
He wanted that presidency so bad. So bad.
Yep.
He actually was part of starting that process to assassinate John Kennedy. Now, let's take a look at what's going on with Trump right now. That's interesting. Have you noticed that everybody that voted for Trump, for whatever reason, I didn't vote for him, I voted against Hillary Clinton. Same thing. There wasn't any real choice there. It's kind of an embarrassment being an American, ugly. But I can tell you that he's a nationalist, and he's doing more for our country than just about anyone, including Obama and Clinton. Clinton was a criminal with that bridge that he has with an NRAP at either end, bringing in all the cocaine on our so-called war on drugs. Oh, yeah. I don't know how this is all going to play, but I can tell you it's not going to end well. Most likely, the United States is going to fragment down into a bunch of little provinces. And California is gone, baby gone. It's days on Earth are doomed. China is, they own 50% of Grants Pass, Oregon. China does. 50% of the property in Grants Pass belongs to China.
Yeah, and they probably own or have filled up, I should say. I don't really mean own. I mean that in quotes. 50% of the landfills in this country are filled with Chinese junk.
What do you think that is? A mafia digging bigger and deeper holes for us to try to bury ourselves in. You know, that's the nuclear radiation problem personified. There's no solution. We'll just put it out of sight, and it'll be out of mind.
Right. And you know, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today. I was talking to a guy who is in his business is number 2. And what I mean by that, he's in the sewage disposal business, okay? And he operates a truck, and he pumps out septic systems. And then the guys who have the septic systems pumped out, they go, great, here's a check, glad to pay you. And they don't think about where does it go? Where does all this human waste and whatever else goes into the septic system goes? Where does it go? Well, anyway, what he said was he will spread it on his farm. He will take the raw sewage and spread it on his farm, and then he'll grow grass on there, and he'll feed the grass to the cows, and he says it works great. However, he says he asks the person who owns the septic system, you know, anybody in the house have chemo? Anybody getting chemo? Anybody getting radiation? Because it will destroy the grass. So he can apply this for a healthy family, and it works great. But if the family's unhealthy and being treated with chemo, it'll destroy his fields. He's not the only guy spraying this stuff on his fields. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. RichardAllenMiller.com if you'd like to peruse the website. And check out the books and offerings he has. RichardAllenMiller.com. Rick, we were talking about pumping out septic systems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No.
Rick, when people have their septic systems pumped out, they're just glad that it's pumped out and, you know, start working again and, you know, ready to fill it up. Well, that sewage goes somewhere. And typically it gets, in our neck of the woods, it gets sprayed on farm grass. It gets baked in the sun, and it's probably okay in many respects. However, you know, people will wash out their paint rollers. They'll pour all kinds of things down the drain, poisons, you know, insecticides, whatever goes down the drain, and then it goes in the septic system, and then it gets pumped out, and then it gets sprayed on fields. So I think that's a concern. And if a person in the family has received radiation treatments, if a person has radioactive seeds implanted, if a person is being treated with chemotherapy, those are all negatives for applying this sewage or sludge on the fields. What are your thoughts about this in the long run, Rick?
Well, I'm concerned about all of it. You know, I don't believe in any of this. I think that I miss Heathkit. I miss building my own. I miss the value in a car when it got older and it still ran good. And my 280Z, for example, has 300,000 miles on the engine right now. And the ports, there's 6 ports, are within a quarter of a pound in balance after 300,000 miles. Now, you tell me what car today can even remotely come up with 1/10 of that quality. 1/10. at any price.
The only problem with the Datsun 240, 260, 280 was rust. That was the problem.
Yeah,
Other than that,
there wasn't any problem.
Heck of a machine.
It was hard to get in and out of it. Yeah, that was the one thing. You know, it wasn't like a Mercedes or the doors lifted straight up, but it was like getting in and out of it. You had to kind of swing yourself in and out, and that's okay. It goes with being athletic. You know, you're gonna run with the racers. You gotta look like a racer. Gonna drive that kind of car. You gotta be in shape to drive it because it runs rough. It's a tough ride. I've got shocks on that thing that are so hard. I'm surprised I don't have, hemorrhoids. It's a rough ride, but you can't beat it when it gets hit in the side by 45 miles an hour. My ex-wife Iona was in another Z, and a guy ran the red light and ran right straight into the car at 45 miles an hour, and she just got a bruise. That's because it had twin outrigger framed on it. It was like 1/7 the price of it. Porsche 911, and had better quality. They just don't do that anymore with anything. There was a Craftsman, Snap-on, used to mean something. They used to have cheapest and best buy per dollar spent. You got more bang for your buck. The problem is that part of marketing does not exist anymore. Everything is cheapest. It's just made by a different manufacturer, China or Finland or something weird. And I think it's time that I boycott, on a personal level, things that I don't believe in. I'm just simply not going to participate, and that's that. And what are they going to do? Sue me? I don't have any money. So good luck with that, man.
Rick, you're talking about Heathkit, and I'm looking at a chart right now. When you mentioned Heathkit, I brought this up on the screen.
Yeah.
And this is 2017 major U.S. store closure announcement. Okay. Heathkit, you mentioned. Where is Heathkit? Well, okay, Radio Shack was a very, very remote, distant, poor substitute for Heathkit. Okay?
Radio Shack's closed now. They're not. They're going to. They're
14
in business.
1,470 stores. Payless, 700 stores. Rite Aid, 600. Sears and Kmart, 358. Gymboree, 330. The list goes on and on and on.
And you know what's so weird is that...
hold that thought. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us in class. Just to give you a highlight of what's really happening compared to what the news is saying is happening. Radio Shack is closing 1,470 stores. Payless, 700. Rite Aid, 600. Athena Retail, 400. Rue 21, 400. Sears and Kmart, 358. Gymboree, 330. The Limited, 250. H.H. Gregg, 220. Gap, 200. GameStop, 190. BB Stores, 180. Wet Seal, 171. This is the number of stores. Not number of employees, number of stores. J.C. Penney, 138. Vitamin World, 124. BCBG,
Vincent,
120.
Remember when they used to say, we're going to put you in jail and throw away the key? Well, guess what? That's Winco or Walmart. When the tough get weird and they stick you in a big box with no windows and you play King Rat, who gets the food. That's how it's going to play. These buildings, I've never seen anything like it, and I'm in the rural country. It's nuts. No windows. Why?
Yeah, and you know what's very interesting?
That's a good question. And I think they're going to put a bunch of people in there and throw away the key. And that's that.
Yeah.
And you've got survive. It'll be a closed system until you figure a way out of tunneling it out of that cave or whatever it is. And no windows. It's all food there. And guess what? You get to set your own priorities on who runs what in there. A little mini U.S. That's a nuts place with FEMA. I can just see it now. You know, that Alaska thing if that had been down here on the coast of Oregon, geez, the entire continental shelf would have been gone. That's how fragile it is right now. And why FEMA went through here and said 8.4. At 8.4, and the continental shelf drops from Alaska all the way down to Peru. And I'm saying that everywhere. Mudslides, other kinds of things going on where the risks aren't even talked about. They just, oh, yeah, we had some mudslides. Have you ever been in a mudslide? I have.
Yes.
I've seen it.
Yes.
It was, in Seattle, I watched a bunch of houses slide down a hill one winter. And there's nothing anybody can do except try to stay, like in an avalanche, on top so you don't get buried.
Yeah, we had, I lived in California in 1980, did about 18 months stint there. And there was a massive rain. And I remember Mrs. Finelli calling me from one end of Silicon Valley. And she said, so how much water can I drive through? And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, it's up to the center of the wheel. I said, really? And she was
There we go. Yeah.
She was driving our old 914 Porsche, it's a air-cooled little Volkswagen / Porsche, and fortunately it was tall enough to sustain that. But the constant velocity joints were in water. The belly of it was in water. It was picking up water and blowing it across the cooling fins of the air-cooled engine. It was a mess. It was a mess. And then houses were sliding off hills. Literally, houses were just sliding down the hill. And we said,
let's not forget and leave out sinkholes. Yeah.
Yes.
Texas and Florida.
Yep.
The earth is changing. And that's the rule. It's no big deal, except that it's not going to be very hospitable for human beings.
Yeah. Robert in Kansas, welcome. You're on with Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Hi, Vincent, Dr. Miller. I was listening to you guys in the first hour, and you were describing the rust and the planned obsolescence, the trees, the bees, the fish in the sea, everything that they are doing, let's say for now. And there's an important term that keeps coming to my mind that I think the class should hear, and it is cacistocracy. And you can, look that term up for yourself. I would describe it or define it as government by evil. And that is Dr. Miller. It's very interesting. I hear him through his the different shows, and he tries to describe it from a point of view of physics. And he really is, saying, I don't know what this is, but it has this force of evil to it. And what he's really describing is what I would call a biblical evil, because that's what it is. And that's why there's no, you have to have a cacistocracy in order to spray the sky with metals. I mean, that doesn't happen any other way.
And guess what? Those aircraft, they come, I live in Oregon, they come out of Chilliwack, Canada. They're UN, and they turn around at Klamath Falls. And I tell you, they're relentless. And the amount of money, do you know how much it costs an aircraft to fly? It's like $10,000 an hour just for the fuel.
Doesn't cost anything if you steal it, Dr. Miller. Now, if you can just print money and steal money from the people, it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, that's true. Here we are. Those individuals, that's where our problem is. It isn't your neighbor. It isn't political correctness, and jihads, and the whole thing's nuts. And every single war has been fought on trying to be right about religion. That's crazy. In the name of God.
Robert, you bring up a very good point. Now, how do you spell that word?
Cacistocracy is Kakistocracy. ACY.
Okay.
Sounds like something L. Ron Hubbard might have invented, huh?
What is the genesis of that?
Well, earlier, Dr. Miller, I think, or it might have been you, Vincent. I know your background in finance. You guys talked about the banks, the bankers, and
yeah.
There's something called usury. Usury is a basically what you would call interest on debt now, a very a common thing, I guess you would call it. Well, in the past, there were people who would practice usury and people who thought it was a sin. There were two different types of people. And let's just say that those sinful people, the ones who rose to the top, the ones who would lend money for literally any reason, you want to start a war and kill 1 million people, here's a bunch of money to go do it. Those are the people who rose to the top. And they became the controllers, essentially. And, you want to talk about government, okay? And those who were willing to literally do anything, a good man would turn around and say, I don't want to start a famine just to take over land. I'm not going to starve a bunch of people. And they wouldn't do it. But the true evil rose to the top, willing to kill, steal, and destroy, to do anything for money. They'll give you a product that only lasts so long, Vincent. You'll drive it down the road. It'll be a rust bucket. They don't care if you spend a year's wages on that vehicle. They don't care about it. It's been the people who got in charge after World War II, essentially. This is their plan. They dumb down the population. They make us sick. It's a serious business. And then you guys brought up Trump too, and that's where does Trump fit in? You see the political turmoil going on. What is Trump? Is he the white? Someone shows him the white hats in our government. That's the thing. We still have a government that founded the nation, the founding fathers, the people who ended slavery, which was essentially a worldwide institution. People don't like to talk about that. They just want to call us slave masters. But this still is a great country in so many ways. And I think we do have those people in government still, in parts of it, in this kakistocracy. And I think they're fighting. Well, that's my opinion. That who knows what Trump is. But somebody picked him. And they're supporting him, and he seems to be saying things like, hey, we're not going to be slaves to a UN agenda and things like that. And that's, hey, I admire him for that. He's done a lot that, thank God compared to Hillary Clinton, I really think you would probably get pulled off the air eventually, Vincent, and Dr. Miller talking about going in buildings with no windows. That whole scenario, I think, was actually close to happening compared to a resurgence in the American idea and freedom of thought, expression, free speech, everything that is so that we've grown to love, that are good about our country. They want to take all the good away. I mean, we still have all those good things. They want to take all that away, or at least they did. And I hope Trump is the figure point of the government that's saying, no, we're going to have a constitutional republic, and we're going to respect the individual. Anyway, it's the craziest time in my life, for sure. That's happening right now.
Robert, I've got a comment on what you just said, if I may. You mentioned Hillary Clinton, and I'd be off the air. Let me share something with you. Several years ago, one of our instructors, I was on a local radio station in Springfield, Missouri, when I first started broadcasting. And there was a guy who was one of our instructors who decided that he was going to get a petition signed up to stop the expansion of Walmarts in Springfield, Missouri. When we come back, I'll tell you the rest of this story. Robert, can you stay with us for another couple minutes?
Yes, I can, Vincent.
Yeah, okay. Stay with us, and I'll tell you the rest of the story. Quite fascinating. Hey, Robert, would you give your phone number to our engineer, and I'd like to call you after the broadcast. Last very, very quick message. March 8 and 9 in West Plains, Missouri, there's going to be a convention, a regional conference, if you will, bringing back the American small farm. And there's a post on the website, USA Prepares, if you'd like to check that out. I plan on being there. That's March 8 and 9 in West Plains, Missouri. Joel Salatin will be there, bringing back the small American farm. Robert, I had a comment about something you said about Hillary Rodham Clinton and us being off the air if she were selected to be the CEO of Corporate USA. And there was a gentleman when I was broadcasting in Springfield, Missouri many years ago, and his name is David Klotz. He's an instructor at USA Prepares. And after high school, he became a Walmart employee. He went to Walmart University, if you will, and that's what he did. He loved it. And he met Sam Walton. He traveled down from Missouri to Arkansas, Bentonville, Arkansas, where he met Sam Walton. And he was championing a department that he wanted to see Walmart establish, and that was a Made in USA department, where all the goods that were made in the United States would be showcased so people could buy them. And as you know, I call Walmart the Chinese factory outlet. Well, and that's what it is. Well, here's what happened. So David Klotz came on the air with me, and he said, hey, we're getting a petition signed, and he gave the address on the air. And I endorsed what he was trying to do. And this petition was to stop the further growth of Walmart stores in Springfield, Missouri. And all he needed was like 1,800, I believe, signatures, and it would stop it. Well, he got them in one day. I mean, we worked together. And so that was on a Friday. He went to work on a Saturday, the very next day, and he was fired. He was fired because the manager, they brought in another manager. He was the store manager of a store called Orscheln Farm and Ranch. And the store manager that came in to fire him, because David Klotz was the store manager, they brought this guy in to fire David Klotz, and they said, well, you seem to be really enthusiastic about Walmart. And, it's not working so well for us, so you're fired. They let him go. All right, so there you have the connection. Now, what is the connection to Walmart? Well, Walmart, when it outgrows stores, Orscheln buys them. So Orscheln stores are in the old Walmart buildings. So there's a connection between Walmart and Orscheln. And David Klotz was the Orscheln store manager. And he got fired because he was opposing the expansion of even more stores in Springfield, Missouri, dominating the marketplace.
What year was this, Vincent?
This was just a few years ago.
A few years ago? Okay.
Yeah, maybe 3 years ago.
Well, you have, anytime you have an entity like that lean on you, it's like having a nation state lean on you. These people have so much money and power. A company like Walmart, they send the right executive down and say, hey, you better fire this guy. I mean, that other company doesn't want to go to war with Walmart, no matter what, if they're in direct business or not. That's just not it's like, a very, very, well put together corporation like that is it's a scary thing to go up against. Disney recently bought all the media, and it's like, you can talk bad about Disney, but as a broadcaster, it's like, man, if they control all the media and you say Disney is not, the greatest thing in the world, you might, who knows? It's what it is.
Well, let me tell you the rest of the story, Robert. So I was calling Walmart the Chinese factory outlet, and next thing I know, I'm hauled into the front office of the radio station. Vinny, we love you. They love you. Vinny, we love you. It'd be really good if you didn't talk about Walmart the way you do. And Ridgecrest Baptist Church, which called the police on you. And, it'd be really good if you didn't give out the the city manager's name and phone number and telling listeners to call him up and tell him he's fired. You know what you should talk about? Hamburgers. Who's got the best hamburgers in Springfield? Well, I didn't understand that was a suggestion. A command. I thought it was a suggestion. Vinny got fired too. Yeah.
They don't like the truth.
Absolutely true. Nope. Hey, Robert, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate it. And Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much.